Mama, here come your roommate. Open the door and let me in.
This is Big John Renter, part of American Blues Legends 74, a tour that went through UK and Europe for, well, getting on for 2 months altogether. We played TV shows, radios, concerts, colleges, universities, and it was a memorable tour. Ended up with a pretty good recording, which we're listening to now. This is Big John Renter. Big John Renter was born in Sunflower, Mississippi in 1923. One of 7 children. Brought up just outside Clarksdale, maybe the center of the blues. Worked as a farmer, hoboed through Mississippi, Tennessee, Illinois. Ended up on Maxwell Street. Played juke joints and parties, and he was a great entertainer. An amiable giant. He lost his left arm in an automobile accident somewhere outside Memphis in 1958, but that didn't hamper him. He'd leap around the stage, his empty sleeve flapping, having a lot of fun. Big John Renter. Big John Renter died in Clarksville, Mississippi in 1997. We're now going to listen to Dr. Isaiah Ross from Tunica, Mississippi. Dr. Ross, the harmonica boss.
All right, the boogie season. Dr. Ross said, everybody got the boogie season. We got the boogie. Oh, yeah. I got the boogie seat, baby. I'm gonna boogie for the doctor. I'm gonna boogie for the nerd. I'm gonna keep on boogieing until the boom in the hoods. I'm gonna boogie.
The good doctor was raised on a farm, one of 11 children. His grandparents were American Indian, and he came to fame really through Sam Phillips records, Sun Records that is, out of Memphis, Tennessee. He had a big record recorded there called Cat Squirrel, which was later recorded by Jethro Tull, by Cream with Clapton and Bruce and Baker, and he remembers Elvis Presley, who also recorded later for Sun, Elvis Presley hanging around the Sun Records recording studio, and he told me, I asked him about Elvis, he said, yes, Elvis Presley. He said, no, he didn't. He said, yes, Elvis, nice boy. Used to go fetch beers and sandwiches while we were recording. Yes, he said, Elvis Preston. So he wasn't that impressed. He later went on to record for and broadcast from Radio KFFA in Arkansas. All through his working life, he still reprised an advertisement that appeared on Radio KFFA. It was the Cat's clothing store somewhere in Helena, and he always plugged that on his gigs for the next 20 years or so. He eventually took a straight job, as these poor old guys had to. He moved to Flint, Michigan, worked in an automobile factory, sweeping scrap off the floor, and that's where it was when we found him. Bring him over on tour for American Blues Legends 74. Actually, it was the second time he toured for us. He came in 72 as well and made a live album at Montreux Blues Festival. He was a one-man band. He played harmonica, guitar, sang, played kazoo. He occasionally divested himself of all these instruments that were hanging around his neck and stood up and did a buck and wing dance. Coming up next is Eddie Playboy Taylor. This is the man for who the word underrated was invented for. Eddie was born in Benoit, Mississippi in 1933. Before he was 20 years old, he moved to Memphis and he was playing in that city's famous Beale Street. 5 years later, still a very young man, he moved to Chicago, made himself at home on Maxwell Street, teaming up with Snooky Pryor, Floyd Jones and all the guys. He was found there by Jimmy Reed, the great Jimmy Reed, who had lots of big hit records, and the man who played guitar on all Jimmy's hit records was Eddie Playboy Taylor. He was with Jimmy for 12 years. Later on, he recorded for VJ with John Lee Hooker and Sunnyland Slim. He had his own hit, a song called Big Town Playboy, hence the new name, Eddie Playboy Taylor. He was the driving force behind lots of great Chicago bands, and I include those of Elmore James and Muddy Waters. Such an underrated man. I like to think he was featured, sort of, in the Blues Brothers movie. When Elmore goes into the chicken shack of Macintyre Murphy and orders 2 whole chickens, and Aretha Franklin expresses surprise. Well, being on the road with Eddie Taylor, I saw him order 2 whole chickens more than once. I think they must have known about that. Put that in the film. Second guitar there is Birmingham's Grand Gallery, and Roger Hill and Peter York, all Birmingham rhythm section. Gallery on bass, Roger Hill on guitar, and Peter York on drums. Yeah. Very important man, for me at least. He died on Christmas Day 1985. Eddie Taylor. Song is I Know My Baby. Bob Hall on piano. What a tough rhythm section, eh? You guys see what the guys look like? Those are them.
Whoa, baby. Whoa, yeah, keep on pushing me. Whoa, you keep on pushing now, baby. Whoa, I know my baby's gonna make everything alright.
Now let's meet George G.P. Jackson, the Kansas City Bo Diddley. Song, as you probably worked out, is called the 12th Street Boogie. It's a reference to a famous street in Kansas City. Jackson was born in Alligator, Mississippi in 1920. His inspiration was Robert Johnson. In fact, Robert Johnson remained his inspiration for life. He actually met Robert, or he's told me over and over again, not at a gig, not in a bar, but at a service station, the Dundee Junction service station, sometime in the middle of the night when they're both returning from their separate gigs. That's Bob Hall on piano. Rhythm section is completed by Bob Brunning on bass guitar and Peter York, who with many, many years was Big Bear Records house drummer. And what a great player. G.P. Jackson picked cotton with Howley Wolf and they went on to play together. He joined the army, he was posted to Bermuda, where he, in his off time, he played regularly with Ramsey Lewis. George G.P. Jackson died in February 1990. The backing musicians on this album throughout are pretty standard rhythm sections. One's the Birmingham Blues Brothers, which is Roger Hill, Graham Gallery, Pete York on guitar, on bass guitar, and on drums. Piano player throughout is Bob Hall. But at the end, the last song we're going to hear in a minute, there's an interesting appearance of a New Orleans-style jazz front line. George Chisholm, Colin Smith, and Johnny Barnes, famous in the jazz world. Cousin Joe, who we are going to listen to next, was pure New Orleans, through and through and through. And he always wrote songs to reflect what he was doing. And the song we're going to listen to is a song called Imaginatively, American Blues Legend 74. He wrote about the tour. And at the end of it, he insisted on having a New Orleans walkabout. So it's a false ending. Look out for it. At the regular ending, those boys walk off together into the sunset in New Orleans. Meet Cousin Joe from New Orleans. The song is called Blues Legends 74.
We traveled 8,000 miles. Big bad Blues Legends 74. We had a whole lot of fun traveling all up and down the road. We traveled all over Britain. Then we even crossed the North Sea. We traveled from Dover all the way to Frankfurt, Germany. Yeah, we played all the colleges, and we played all the schools. We played from London all the way to Liverpool.
Cousin Joe was born Pleasant Joseph, though he did use several names during his life. He recorded gospel music as Brother Joshua. He also recorded as Pleasant Joe and Smiling Joe, but he became known to the blues world as Cousin Joe from New Orleans. He always had that New Orleans tag. He was never forgotten he was a hometown boy. Born in Wallace, Louisiana, brought up in New Orleans, Joe started singing in church. Very soon he was singing in street corners and cafes and bars with people like Billy and D.D. Pierce. He even got a gig, a 9-month gig in Havana, Cuba. Some great photographs of that gig with Joe looking very elegant, surrounded by a line of chorus girls, maybe 20 of them. He always liked to show people that. When he left Cuba, he went to New York, played with some jazz players, played regularly at the Onyx Club and Small's Paradise. That was about 1943 to 1947. Returned to New Orleans, worked with Sidney Bechet, Mes Mesro, Bill Bostic even. That's where he found in New Orleans. I think I did more tours with Joe than any other bluesman, maybe 14. Delightful man. Loved working with him. He died in New Orleans in October the 2nd, 1989. No more knocked out piano. No more captivating vocals. No more laughing socks off on the road. But I'll never forget that laugh. Cousin Joe, we miss you.